So many nights I'd sit by my window waiting for someone to sing me a song. So many dreams I've kept deep inside me, alone in the dark. Now you've come along and you light up my life. You give me hope to carry on. You light up my days and fill my nights with song. Rolling at sea, adrift on the water. Could it be finally I'm turning for home? Finally a chance to say, hey, I love you. Never again to be all alone. And you light up my life. You give me hope to carry on. You light up my days and fill my nights with song. You light up my life. You give me hope to carry on. You light up my days and fill my nights with song. It can't be wrong when it feels so right. 'Cause you light up my life.
The very first time I heard that song, I felt that it was me talking to God. I wasn't emotional doing this. I'm really in trouble. God has a message for you today in this service. It may be in the music, it may be in the message, it may come from the person sitting next to you today. But I ask now that you'll center your hearts and open your minds to receive that word from God when it comes. I first want to thank all of you who were so encouraging to me as I prepared for this day. And I want to thank Pastor Jim for giving me the opportunity and the honor to speak to you as well. You see, this is not a very comfortable place for me. I'm much more comfortable over there singing for you with the praise and worship band, as I normally do, than I am here talking to you. But I do believe that there are times in our lives when we must take risks in order to grow in our faith. Sometimes those risks are tiny little baby steps, and sometimes they're great, big, giant leaps, and I'll let you guess which one it is for me today. Fish out of water, that's all I'm saying. And if I appear calm, please rest assured that I look more like this on the inside. You see, I'm not a biblical scholar. In fact, there are times in the past when I've had to read
a passage from the Bible 2 or 3 or 500 times to try to understand it. So I was anxious as I was waiting for the readings today, and I was so thankful when I saw that I had the conversion of Saul. You see, it's a very dramatic story, one that has historical significance in the Bible, but it's a very simple story. It's almost matter of fact in the way it's told. Saul is on his way to Damascus. And if we remember Saul from 5 weeks ago, Saul was the one who held the coats and the purses and the backpacks and the cell phones of those who were stoning Stephen to death. Stephen, a prophet of Jesus. And later in that same passage, it says that Saul dragged both men and women to prison for their beliefs in Christ. And now Saul is on his way to Damascus, breathing murderous threats. That's never a good thing. Breathing murderous threats. And Saul was walking along, and all of a sudden, a booming voice from the sky and a bright light lit up Saul. And the voice said, "Why do you persecute me?" And Saul, he asked what I would think would be a really good question at this time. Who is this? And the voice says, "It is Jesus whom you have persecuted." Now, it doesn't say what Saul thought at that time, but I can assure you, if it were me, I would have been terrified if a bright light and a booming voice said to me that that I was persecuting, especially knowing that it were true. It does say, though, that Saul had to get up off the ground, so somehow he ended up on the ground. And as he was getting up, he realized that he was blinded by the light of Christ. And Jesus said, "Follow these instructions, and you will be healed of your blindness." And I believe that Jesus was not only talking about his physical blindness, but also of Saul's spiritual blindness, his hate and fear for something that he didn't understand. And so Saul follows the instructions and waits. Meanwhile, Jesus goes to Ananias and says, "Ananias, I need you to go to this address in Damascus, and I need you to heal Saul." And Ananias is like, "I'm sorry, did you say Saul?" Saul, the one who is persecuting and imprisoning and killing your servants like me. That's all. Jesus says, "Yes, go and heal Saul." And with an amazing amount of faith, I must believe he had, Ananias goes and heals Saul. And as he does so, scales literally fall from Saul's eyes. A really, really dramatic story. Since I've been coming to MCC of the Rockies, I've been learning to look at new ways to view Scripture, things that I haven't even thought about before. And so as I'm preparing for today, I started to go and kind of look for things to talk about, and I thought, well, let's start with the definition of conversion. Pretty clear-cut, pretty matter-of-fact, converting from one religion to another. Religion? Let's look up the definition of religion. And I found this definition of religion: the body of persons adhering to a particular set of beliefs and practices. And I like this definition for several reasons. One is it's going to help me make my point. Always a good thing, right? Always a good thing. And two, it looks at religion in a secular way. And we do that all the time. We take religious words and apply secular meaning to them. We say things like, she worships the almighty dollar. He goes to church at Our Lady of Saks Fifth Avenue. She, by the way, do you like my new outfit? I bought it for you. She is a gym god. He worships the sun. And as I was thinking about these phrases, I realized they all had something in common. They all talk about things that these people enjoy doing with their time. So I say, wow, that's really powerful. They're using religious terms to talk about something that is important to them, whether it's making money, or sunbathing, or working out at the gym, or shopping. And so I thought, this is what I want to explore with you today. Those things that we spend the most time doing in our lives, those are our religions. They must be, because we're spending all of our time doing them, right? Now, some of you are looking a little panicked, so I want to tell you right now that I'm going to take out a 40-hour work week. Because all of us, well, most of us have to work in order to have a roof over our heads and to eat. And the consensus is 40 hours is probably a pretty standard work week. If you work 60 or 70 hours a week, then those 20 or 30 hours are probably a religion for you. Not judging, just saying. And so I want to look at those things that we do with our free time. And not all the time are they good. Sometimes they're good things and sometimes they're not so good things. Sometimes we spend our time volunteering and helping those in need. Sometimes some of us spend time with our families and our children, helping to nurture them and help them grow into strong adults. Sometimes some of us spend time with our friends and nurture and develop long-term, meaningful relationships with them. But sometimes there's some not so good things either, also. Sometimes we isolate ourselves, and we can do that by, spending lots of time on the computer or playing video games or watching television. And studies have shown that long-term periods of us isolating ourselves in that way, it's not healthy for us. Sorry, I get cotton mouth when I talk. And so it's important for us to think about those things that we believe to be our religions. They must be something that's really important to us, right? There was a great story I heard a long, long time ago. It's one that I've always remembered. There was a philosophy teacher, and she's walking into her classroom holding this large, clear jar. She sets it on the table. And then she puts 3 large rocks into the jar until the 3rd rock is at the rim of the jar. And she asks her class, "Is this jar full?" And the class was like, "Well, yeah, it's full of 3 big rocks, duh." And then she proceeds to put smaller rocks into the jar around the larger rocks until they're at the rim. How about now? Most say no, if you say yes. Then she pours pebbles into the jar. How about now? About half say yes, half say no. Then she pours sand into the jar amongst the pebbles and the rocks. How about now? Most say yes, a few say no. And finally she pours water into the jar until it's at the rim. And finally they all agree that the jar is now full. And then the teacher asks her students, what is the life lesson that we can take from this demonstration? One hand goes up in the back. Oh, I want to know. The teacher says yes, and he goes, no matter how busy we are, no matter how packed our lives can be, we can always find time to do more. And the teacher says, interesting, but you've kind of missed the point of the story, of the demonstration. You see, our lives are full. Our lives are full of lots of different things that we have to do with our lives every single day. So if it's important that we put the big rocks into the jar first, or they won't fit. They won't fit into the jar. Those big rocks are religions, if you will. They must go into our jar. They must be so important in our lives that they go into that jar first. So you've had a little time. I'm hoping that you're listening to the sermon, but if you've drifted a little, if you've drifted and you've been thinking about your big rocks, I understand. I can tell you what my big rocks are. My family. My parents moved around a lot. My father was in the Air Force. My parents moved around a lot when we were young. And so when we would get to a new place, my family would be all each of us had. It was the only ones we knew in that place. And so we spent a great deal of time together. And I still love hanging out with my family. I still love even vacationing with my family. And they live 1,800 miles away, but I talk to them all the time. And I pray for them and think about them all the time too. And my dog Seymour is a part of my family here in Denver, and he's a big part of my life. I try to do as much with him as possible. In fact, he's kind of the unofficial mascot of the back pew because he comes to rehearsals on Thursday night with me, and he loves being here. My friends are another big rock in my life. I'm so amazingly blessed with an incredible wealth of friends. I love to hang out with them, no matter if we're just hanging out and talking over a glass of wine, or we're out at dinner, or we're vacationing together, or we're watching a movie. I love that time I have with my friends. It's so precious to me. And my third one is MCC of the Rockies. I love being a part of the ministries here, and I've done a lot of different ministries over the time that I've been here, and I love being a part of this church. I love being a part of a community that feeds people